Today, we're diving into a topic that's been making waves in the Marvel Rivals community. A longtime gamer slash new YouTuber recently claimed that the Marvel Rivals matchmaking system is somehow rigged, designed to manipulate players into losing matches and spending money. But after hours of research, rewatching his video, taking 9 pages worth of notes, and even digging into the GDC talk and research paper he referenced, I found his arguments are full of misinformation, logical leaps, and classic conspiracy theory rhetoric. And in his latest video, he sort of outs himself for the fact that he didn't even watch the GDC talk that he references throughout his original video, which completely undermines his claims. So let's dive in.
So let's start here. This is my match history, okay? This is competitive. Every single one of these games is competitive. I did not take a break in between these games, with the exception of me losing all these games and then me closing the game and taking a break. I don't know if it was for a couple hours. I don't know if I played the next day, next morning, I can't remember, but it was a pretty significant break. When I came back, I experienced this, which is all wins. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's just RNG, that's just coincidence. Well, I'm gonna prove otherwise.
Keep in mind that this YouTuber said that he has proof, and he makes a lot of big claims. Carl Sagan, one of the most famous skeptics and science communicators to have ever lived, had a popular saying, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." And as you'll see, this YouTuber doesn't have the evidence he thinks he does. Now, before we get into it, I need to go over a few things. First off, my goal isn't malicious in any way toward this YouTuber. He's a younger guy, and we're all subject to thinking errors. I'm hoping that if he ever does see this video, he's able to understand where his logic is flawed so he can put together better arguments in the future. And I hope the same for all of you watching this video. Next, let me explain why this topic matters so much. Misinformation spreads fast, and when it does, it can discourage players from trying to improve their skills, and it could take the fun out of the game. And on the game dev side, it harms trust. You will rarely see me ever taking the side of a multi-million or multi-billion dollar company, but misinformation is a problem regardless of who it's about. And let's not forget that we legit live in a time where game devs receive threats, so it's important that we think critically before making the types of claims that this YouTuber made in his video. The YouTuber explains his background to give him some credibility before making his claims. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm not a game developer, but I've spent years reading 100+ nonfiction books per year. Many of them are written by academics, and some of my favorite books are about critical thinking and debunking conspiracy theories. I also used to host a podcast where I had many of these academic researchers on to discuss their books. One of my first episodes was with the founder of Skeptic Magazine, Michael Shermer. He's written books like The Believing Brain, From Ghosts and Gods to Politics and Conspiracies, Why People Believe Weird Things, and Conspiracy, Why the Rational Believe the Irrational. So while I'm not a game developer or an academic researcher, I've become pretty good at critical thinking and spotting the spread of BS information. So here are some of the main topics we're gonna cover in this video. The YouTuber's claims, why his arguments don't hold up, what the paper and the video from NetEase actually say, and why matchmaking systems exist in the first place. And while I know I titled this as a debunking video, I'm honestly not even sure what it should be called, because by the end of this video, you'll see that the only thing this YouTuber proved is that NetEase uses matchmaking algorithms. But here's the thing, that's not really news to anyone who's been playing competitive video games for any amount of time. Literally every online game uses some form of a matchmaking algorithm. So what exactly is he exposing? As you'll see in this video, it's not much. First, let's talk about the YouTuber's credentials, because a major problem in recent years is people speaking with authority on topics where they have no academic background or credentials. If you want to learn more about how big of a problem this is, I highly recommend reading The Death of Expertise by Tom Nichols and Know-It-All Society by Michael Patrick Lynch. This YouTuber starts his video by telling us that he's been gaming for years and has achieved super high ranks. And don't get me wrong, that's impressive. But what you should be paying attention to is what he doesn't say. Yes, he has gaming experience, but that doesn't make you an expert in interpreting academic papers, coding, or game development. A lot of YouTubers do this, and it's a growing problem. You'll see a lot of creators, they'll show an academic research paper or legal documents and give you their interpretation. Just to be clear, we're talking about fields where people study these topics for years. They have to go to college for years to discuss these topics properly. And we're meant to believe that anyone could just pull up one of these documents and relay the information. In his recent video, the YouTuber does state that he's a construction worker and that he owns his own business. Again, that's impressive, but it doesn't mean he understands the topics that he's making these bold claims about. Throughout the video, he uses classic conspiracy theory tactics.
But you probably haven't seen any hard proof. And before everybody tells me skill diff or take my meds or conspiracy theory or this guy's got a tin hat on, although that is funny, unfortunately that's not going to be applicable here. And I'm going to show you why.
Listen, anytime someone's about to make extraordinary claims and tells you, quote, "I'm not a conspiracy theorist," it should send off alarms in your head. Just about every conspiracy theorist that you will ever meet, from flat earthers to those who think that lizard people walk among us, say things like, "Well, I don't normally believe in conspiracies, but," or, "You know, I'm a very scientifically minded person." Another tactic that conspiracy theorists use is emphasizing certain words.
Win patterns, yes, I'll say it again. Win patterns, the factors that influence the victory in a match, the factors that influence the victory in a match. In the algorithms, I'm gonna say it again, the algorithms that incorporate those factors during the application of machine learning, the application of machine learning. Churn patterns, I'm gonna say it again, churn patterns. There's a reason why I'm doing this. The factors that influence the player's churn after this matchmaking proposal, and the tricks. I'm gonna say it again, the tricks. I'm gonna say this one more time, extra emphasis, the tricks. And at the bottom here, you're gonna see some win-lose patterns. Keep that in mind, these are patterns.
Do you see what I mean? He's trying to take these very normal concepts and make them sound shady, but he doesn't provide any evidence or reasoning to back it up. For example, he has a problem with NetEase talking about win patterns. Well, I just showed you a pattern of him emphasizing words. Does that automatically mean that I'm up to something shady as well? Of course not. You need evidence beyond simply pointing out words. Now, let's talk about how he misinterprets the NetEase paper and GDC talk. But actually, let's talk about that GDC talk first. Before I spent hours taking notes for this video, I watched the 50-minute GDC talk in its entirety to make sure that I had my facts straight. Right before I started writing the script for this video, I saw this YouTuber released a new video, and he clearly outs himself by exposing the fact that he didn't watch the GDC talk at all.
So what can you do? Well, I can tell you what you can't do, because I've tested this on a couple different accounts. So my theory on if you lose a game and you close the game and reopen it, if you do it right away, there's zero effect, I promise. I've tested it over about maybe 8 hours. It does nothing. Now, if you were to close the game after a loss and not come back for a day, that might make a difference.
As you can see, he discussed some theories about how long you should close the game and how he doesn't know, and he's just done some testing. Had he actually watched the GDC talk, which was done by one of the researchers for that paper, he would have known that she clearly states exactly how long the time is.
Apart from the traditional day 1, day 3, day 7 chunks, we have another more measure, which is called 8-hour chunk in matchmaking. Because a player is labeled as 8-hour chunker if they do not play any match within the next 8 hours after playing this match. Because we believe 8 hours is kind of a threshold to split a continuous play slot.
If you won't take the time to watch the video and just simply reads the summary from the website, why should you trust that he's properly done the research to give you real quote-unquote proof of his claims? When he goes through the actual NetEase paper on OptMatch, he cherry picks phrases like, quote, defeat streaks or win patterns, and then he twists them to fit his narrative. When he discusses defeat streaks, he says AKA loser brackets, without any proof. For those of you who don't know, losers brackets, or also known as loser queues, are these made-up things that gamers created, claiming the game is putting them with other losers, triggering a losing streak. You can't just take the word defeat streaks from a document and then say that you have quote-unquote proof of losers brackets. Proof would be something like the actual mention of something like that in the paper, but all you'll find is that the focus of OptMatch is to reduce player churn, and it monitors a person's losses to predict potential churn rates. I'm going to use one of this YouTuber's tactics real quick and repeat that with some emphasis. You cannot just take the word defeat streaks from the paper and then say you have quote-unquote proof of losers brackets.
So this brings up a more complex problem that how we devise a more sophisticated matchmaking system to make everyone feel happy or at least not so bad.
The only thing we have proof of is NetEase being guilty of trying to keep people happy and playing their video game. Much like how matchmaking is in every competitive game, literally every live service game, social media app, and search engine is doing the same thing. Later, when we go over the OptMatch paper, he admits he doesn't understand what he's even looking at.
This is player utility. This is a formula that I don't think anybody's gonna understand, at least not myself.
He says that he doesn't know what he's looking at, and he says that you probably don't either. Yet for some reason, he confidently makes these assumptions based on the bolded headlines of the paper and parts of it that he can read. If he can't understand the formulas, how can he claim that he has proof of anything the algorithm is or isn't doing? And this next clip should have had the majority of people turn off the video, but clearly they didn't because it's at over 80,000 views and still climbing.
This paper proposes a two-stage data-driven matchmaking framework, namely OptMatch, or EOMM, which is engagement optimized matchmaking, which is what they're not telling you is being used. Okay? That's what Activision patented in like 2018. The goal of that patent was to drive players to spend money through using psychological tactics and manipulation and predatory tactics to get people to spend money on the game. That's what that patent was.
So for additional context, earlier in the video, he shows a patent that Activision has for system and method for driving microtransactions in multiplayer video games. Here, he conflates NetEase's OptMatch with Activision's EOMM. Like, what? That's a massive leap in logic that frankly makes absolutely no sense. Not only can he not properly interpret this paper, but he clearly doesn't understand how a patent works. A patent is the legal right granted for an invention, allowing the patent holder, which is Activision in this case, to exclude others from making, using, or selling the invention for a specific period. So if you put your critical thinking hat on for 2 seconds, you can see why his conflation is just silly. He's claiming NetEase is using the same system as Activision. First off, he provides absolutely no proof of this other than reading the word OptMatch and then simply saying that it's the same thing as Activision's patent.
This paper proposes a two-stage data-driven matchmaking framework, namely OptMatch, or EOMM, which is engagement optimized matchmaking, which is what they're not telling you is being used. Okay? That's what Activision patented in like 2018.
Second, how is NetEase using this technology without getting their pantsuit off by Activision? In addition to misunderstanding what patents are and how they work, the patent is clearly called System and Method for Driving Microtransactions in Multiplayer Video Games. Nowhere, Absolutely nowhere in the GDC video nor the opt-match paper will you find a single mention of microtransactions. Yet, if you watch this YouTuber's video in full, he accuses NetEase of manipulation with the goal of getting people to spend money throughout the entire thing. And if you watch his newest video, he accuses them of rigging matchmaking for microtransactions as well. We have proof that he discusses microtransactions quite a bit, but we have yet to find any proof that NetEase mentions it in either of his sources. Sorry to start this section by revisiting the losers bracket topic again, but this is one of his main claims, and it's something that I've heard throughout the Marvel Rivals community.
Skill gaps, defeat streaks, aka losers brackets.
Let's break this down for a second. He reads the word defeat streaks, which we've already determined is simply the term used for people losing multiple games in a row. And then he immediately jumps to the conclusion that this means quote unquote losers brackets. This is a massive logical leap. But what does NetEase actually say happens when the algorithm detects these defeat streaks?
So how to handle this conclusion again? Our suggestion is to give some tiny advantage to the desperate and fatigued players during matchmaking if possible.
In her GDC talk, the researcher explains that the system not only doesn't try to make you lose, but it actually tries to give you a tiny advantage to prevent you from quitting. That's the exact opposite of the concept of a loser's bracket or loser's queue. So real quick, let's discuss why loss streaks happen. The truth is that there are a variety of reasons, and the NetEase speaker goes through many of them in her talk. She discusses them because she's explaining how it's difficult for the algorithm to get a true picture of why a person is losing. Sometimes it's bad matchmaking, sometimes it's a skill diff, and sometimes it's just plain old bad luck. Unfortunately, humans are prone to something called confirmation bias. This bias is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs while also disregarding information that contradicts them. In a famous experiment, participants were shown cards and asked to test a rule. Most people only looked for evidence that confirmed the rule rather than evidence that could disprove it. This is exactly what happens when people blame the quote-unquote losers brackets. They only remember their loss streaks and ignore the times that they won. People like this YouTuber who believe in these losers brackets only note the times when they went on a loss streak. They don't try to disconfirm what they believe. For example, how would they explain when they lose 3 games and then go on a massive winning streak? Or how do they explain win streaks at all? If you want to be a better critical thinker, the best place to start is by trying to disprove your own beliefs. And let's not forget, if the game's goal is to keep players happy and engaged, why on earth would it intentionally make you lose? The YouTuber himself even admits that players stop playing when they lose. So what is he even arguing? As you'll see, he and some others have a wild theory that NetEase makes you lose games so you'll spend money. Now, let's address some of the YouTuber's wilder claims.
What skin you're wearing and what heroes you're playing. The reason for that is if they put you into a game where you guys all have skins and you absolutely dumpster and manhandle the enemy team and they're new to the game and they don't have skins, they're gonna go, those guys had those skins and they absolutely destroyed us. Maybe I need to buy some skins. That's actually the psychological aspect of it, believe it or not.
What? Did you think I was kidding when I said that? Again, I made this video because misinformation spreads so fast. Not only does misinformation spread fast, but so do bad ideas like this one. After this YouTuber's video came out, another Marvel Rivals YouTuber made a video about it and has over 63,000 views at the time of me writing this script. And check out what he has to say. I cannot make this stuff up, folks.
While on top of this, now this was, when I heard this is so cool to hear. And I thought about it, I was like, well, I guess it kind of worked on me and my friends. They will put you against people with skins and have you lose or have it favored for them to beat you just to convince you to buy a skin. Do you hear how that's... Bro, that is so cool, first of all, to set up the game so that it's rigged so you will lose against people with skins to make you say, wow, that skin was kind of clean. and they looked really cool destroying me. Yeah, let me buy that. And it's worked on me. For example, the Venom snow skin. I got completely destroyed by a Venom in that skin, and so did my friend. And we both said, yeah, that skin was kind of clean. We might have to cop that. And it works. And it's so cool to see that that's how they do things.
Like, are you kidding me right now? Did this guy just say, quote, that it's so cool the game is set up to make you buy skins when you lose? To be fully transparent, I actually saw this video first, and then as soon as he said that, I had to go hunt down the original. Now, before I explain how ridiculous this is, I just wanna say, have some agency, people. If you buy a skin because someone, quote unquote, looked cool while they beat you, you really need to work on your impulse control and money management. I personally know someone in my real life who has literally hundreds of unopened Amazon boxes in their house because they just have to buy everything they see. People, stop it. All right, back to their poor logic and why they're saying this. Again, you will find no mention of this in the OpMatch paper or the NetEase talk at GDC. So where'd they get this wild idea from? Well, it goes back to the Activision patent. From what I understand, the patent is about using matchmaking to psychologically manipulate people into spending money. But remember, it makes absolutely no sense to say that NetEase is using Activision's patented algorithm. And this is why misinformation and wild claims are so dangerous. YouTuber A made a video saying that OpMatch is the same as Activision's matchmaking algorithm. And now YouTuber B is telling 63,000 plus people, yep, it exists and it worked on me. Meanwhile, there's zero evidence NetEase bought the rights to use this technology and are currently using it in Marvel Rivals. Personally, being the skeptic that I am, I'd love to see some data from Activision's algorithm and how well it works. As you may be able to tell, I'm a little cautious with my spending, so I'm curious to know how well that tech actually works and how they track the metrics. But we also have to take into consideration that people can file dumb patents on anything at any time, and not all of that technology actually works. They're just patenting the idea. Aside from there being no evidence NetEase is using this technology, let's put our critical thinking hats back on. Not including the YouTuber who apparently bought a Venom skin after getting wrecked, who loses a match and their first thought is, you know what? I need to go buy that skin. I'd assume it's not many, but feel free to let me know down in the comments section if you're one of those people. While it doesn't make sense in Marvel Rivals, I can see it making sense in other games. For example, I play the digital card game Marvel Snap. Buying cards costs in-game currency, which translates to real money. When certain cards and certain decks are beating me consistently, yes, it does make me want to buy them. And sometimes I do, because I like winning. This is far and away from what Marvel Rivals is, though. Cards in Marvel Snap have power levels that some even call pay to win. No skin in Marvel Rivals gives you an advantage over other players, so it'd be wasted resources on NetEase's part to do that in Marvel Rivals, unless you're that one YouTuber who bought a Venom skin after getting wrecked. But moving on to the next wild claim.
I don't know if this exists in Marvel Rivals, so I'm not gonna give you guys bad information, but there are games that this system has actually increased and decreased hitboxes in real time in the game. So for any of you who have played a game in Marvels before where you absolutely destroy the enemy team on the first fight, and then you go to the next map and you have another fight and then they're dumpstering you, I would not be surprised if that's an increase and a reduction in hitboxes and hit registry, or any kind of increased FPS or latency for the winning or losing team. That would not surprise me at this point, especially on console where aim assist is like heavily needed.
First off, he introduces the idea of dynamic hitboxes and the game adjusting your mouse acceleration with another classic conspiracy theorist move. The clip I just showed you is about 24 minutes into a 33-minute video, and he says, I don't know if this exists in Marvel Rivals, so I'm not gonna give you bad information. Really? After over 20 minutes of bad information and no solid proof, now you don't want to give us bad information? While it may not be intentional on this YouTuber's part, this is a tactic conspiracy theorists use, similar to saying, quote, I don't normally believe in conspiracy theories, but What this YouTuber is implying is that he has a certain moral code and he'll do his utmost to not give you, the viewer, bad information. This gives you, the viewer, a false sense of trust, making you assume, well, if he's being careful and saying he doesn't know this specific thing for sure, it must mean that everything else he said he does know for sure. But that's not what this YouTuber did.
But you probably haven't seen any hard proof.
He started his video by saying he has proof of something nefarious. And as we've covered thus far, the only thing that he has quote unquote proof of is that NetEase is doing what every other game does. The correct thing for him to do would be to start the video by saying, listen, I have some theories about Marvel Rivals matchmaking. I'm not sure if they're true or not, but based on what I understand, I think they might be. Honestly, if he said that and dropped some reminders throughout the video, I probably wouldn't have even made my video, but he didn't. Now back to the claim. He said he wouldn't be surprised if Marvel Rivals used dynamic hitboxes or adjusted your mouse acceleration without you knowing about it. He's saying, I wouldn't be surprised because he's already established with the viewer that he thinks NetEase is some evil company, so he wouldn't be surprised if they're rigging your games by doing something this shady. This is extremely irresponsible of the YouTuber to say. This is trying to sow seeds of doubt and create a narrative about NetEase when the only thing we know for certain is NetEase has a matchmaking algorithm and this YouTuber gets super salty about loss streaks. There is no reason to support a game if you actually think that they would do something this terrible. Now, toward the end of the video, he finally says something that I can get behind and we actually have evidence for.
The main system is to not make you quit. So if you lose a game in competitive, close the game. Immediately close the game. You lose a game in competitive, close the game, take an hour break, get on an alt account, play that if you want to keep playing, re-queue for competitive. I can almost guarantee you are going to go on a win streak.
Yes, it's true. The NetEase researcher said OptMatch will try to give you easier games if you stop playing. As you remember, we know this YouTuber didn't watch the GDC talk or he would know that the time it takes for this to kick in with OptMatch is about 8 hours. But something to keep in mind is that while we do have evidence that this exists in OptMatch, we do not have evidence that it's being used in Marvel Rivals. I think it's safe to assume some version of this is running in Marvel Rivals, but there's no evidence and we have to acknowledge that fact. If someone out there watching this video can pick apart the code and find that somewhere in the game, I'm happy to take a look and have it verified by some coders. But the last thing I want to talk about in this section is this clip right here.
This is where it gets weird. Assign robots of suitable strength if needed. So adding AI to the game that you may or may not be able to detect of suitable strength if needed.
Yes, this is something the speaker actually discusses in the GDC talk, but let's use some nuance real quick and ask some good faith questions. This is something that I'm curious about as well, but what are the facts that we have? We know for a fact that Marvel Rivals will queue you against teams of bots in quick match if you're losing too much. We also know that there's a surefire way to find out if someone's a bot in the game. I'm not gonna go over that in this video because there are way too many nuances and it'll take way too long to cover and it'll probably be taken out of context. So if you'd like me to make a dedicated video on that topic, let me know down in the comments. So what we don't know is that Marvel Rivals will put bots on your team in ranked matchmaking. If anyone has evidence of this, please let me know because I'm extremely curious. And while we do know that the GDC speaker says they've used this in games, we don't know which ones. NetEase has a full library of games, and this GDC talk is from almost 4 years ago. So we don't have any evidence that this is a thing in Marvel Rivals or in Marvel Rivals ranked play for that matter. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why matchmaking exists in the first place? The entire goal of matchmaking is to pair players of similar skill levels. That isn't some shady conspiracy. It's very basic game design.
We will choose, then we will calculate the utility of these two persons when they are paired up to a match. Then we will choose the matchups that maximize the total utility.
Again, the only quote-unquote proof this YouTuber has given us is that Marvel Rivals does what every other game does. Why is that a problem? If you rewatch this YouTuber's video and others making similar claims, you'll see that they can't even fully understand their own logic. And if you think about it, what's the alternative? Would you rather have completely random matchmaking where bronze players could potentially face celestial players? Of course not. If you wanted to make people stop playing your game, turn off the matchmaking algorithms and let people who just started playing the game have the possibility to pair up against a 6-stack team of pro players. Playing against people way above your skill level just isn't fun. Another game that I play is the soon-to-be-canceled platform fighter Multiverses. I remember in the beta, the player count dropped drastically, and I'm a pretty casual Multiverses player, but toward the end of the beta, all that was left was the sweaty tryhards. It was no fun having zero possibility of winning, so I stopped playing the game. Pro player and Psylocke Wonder Girl SK actually had a great response to this Nick Merckx clip that was making its round on Twitter the other day.
The way the ranked is, the way the works is when you win too many times in a row and you climb up a certain amount, your account gets flagged. They take you from this side and put you to this side, and now it's only with the dumbasses and the morons. So you lose, so you come back down just to keep you fucking playing, man. Stop yapping. Sakran, don't defend Marvel Rivals devs like you're one of them or something. This is the truth, man. This is real shit right here. This is what they do. This is exactly what it's by design to keep you on the game longer. They want you to continue climbing. So the only way out is you have to just absolutely hard carry. Look, we've lost like so many times in a row now where we'll start to get wins. And they'll be easy. Guys, these wins are going to be fucking cheese, man. Like, I'm cutting right through them like Swiss cheese, man. I'm going to be shitting all over these man. How's he doing it? He LeBron, oh my God. You know what I mean? Watch. And then we're going to hit a wall. And it's just going to be just morons, man, on my team.
First she says, this isn't true, he just sucks. But then she goes on to say, if you win a lot, your rating is higher, so you go against better opponents. People are inconsistent. Maybe your teammate is having an off game. Maybe your teammate is playing a hero they don't play. Maybe their main is banned. Maybe they're playing versus a hard counter. Maybe they aren't getting the resources they need to perform. There's no grand conspiracy, and it's a waste of energy to think there is. It will only hold you back from realizing your true potential. I'm glad her tweet went viral because she recognizes why loss streaks happen and gives some solid advice. At the end of the day, while we may not have control over matchmaking, we have control over the effort that we put into leveling up our skills. SK actually discussed this recently in a bit more depth and gives suggestions for how to review your own gameplay. At one point, she laughs at herself because she's self-aware of her ego.
I was crashing out earlier, and I was a hypocrite. I was just looking at all my teammates' huge mistakes, which to be fair, they were huge mistakes. What causes me to have bad mental is when I'm smurfing on my main account. I'm so low ranked that I feel like I should just win every single game because I'm truly and honestly, no ego, just factually better.
That's SK, one of the top Marvel Rivals player in the world, recognizing how silly it is to think that she should never lose a low-ranked game. Also, if you get a chance, Coach Mills also just made an excellent video about how the matchmaking system is not rigged, and I've linked it down in the description below if you wanna check it out. And that's one of the reasons I made this way too long video in the first place. Conspiracy theorists are just looking for a world full of randomness to have some sort of order to it. But believing the NetEase game devs are out to get you just isn't it. When you think there's this, as SK puts it, grand conspiracy, you're taking time and energy away from analyzing your own gameplay and seeing what you could do to improve. There's actually one more goal of matchmaking, and it's something the YouTuber doesn't mention once, but it's a major talking point in the GDC video, and that's how long it takes to find you a match. A major aspect of the algorithm's machine learning is trying to reduce the amount of time it takes to find you a match. People who experience long queue times often stop playing. So the algorithm is constantly trying to run its formulas faster to find you matches as quickly as possible. And with that being said, sorry all of you Celestial and One Above All players. So what have we learned? The YouTuber misinterprets research, uses conspiracy theorist rhetoric, and makes unsupported claims. The actual OpMatch research paper focuses on improving player satisfaction and reducing churn. But what it doesn't mention is microtransactions.
So this brings up a more complex problem that how we devise a more sophisticated matchmaking system to make everyone feel happy or at least not so bad.
At the end of the day, matchmaking systems exist to create fair and enjoyable experiences. The Marvel Rivals matchmaking system is far from perfect. If anything, it needs some tweaks because a lot of us do experience a series of bad matches. But while it's not perfect, we don't have evidence that it's rigged either. And listen, I know NetEase is trying to make money. They're a business. They have a staff they need to pay, and it costs money to run the servers. Although the OpMatch paper and GDC talk don't specifically mention players spending money, none of us are stupid. We know NetEase wants us to spend money. But do you remember when NetEase first announced the Battle Pass and the joy that spread throughout the community? They announced that the Battle Pass is not time limited, so people don't have to feel rushed to complete it. They also announced that every character would be free. So yes, they're trying to make some money, but they're also giving us a lot more than most live service games out there. With that being said, I think it's pretty unfair of this YouTuber to make 2 videos now accusing NetEase of rigging their matchmaking just so they can manipulate people and make a quick buck. And I don't know about you, but I love Marvel Rivals, and I don't want to see it die. And the reality is that we live in a world run by capitalism, and NetEase needs to make a profit if we want the game to stick around. So even though I'm frugal, I have no problem supporting games that I love and the teams that are creating them. Before I let you go, just remember the next time you hear someone claiming the system is out there to get you, remember to think critically and question the quote-unquote evidence. All right, everybody, if you made it through this entire video, thanks so much for watching. I spent about 10 plus hours on this video, so I'd really appreciate if you showed us some love and shared it to help stop the spread of misinformation. It also really helps out the channel. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. I usually make pretty consistent Marvel Rivals videos, but in addition to working on this monstrous video essay, I've been really sick along with my girlfriend, so I'll get back to the regularly scheduled content pretty soon. But anyways, have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.